Welcome to the Adult Foster Care Division's video presentation on resident rights in AFC homes, provider responsibilities. The purpose of this presentation is to make licensees aware of the general rights each AFC resident has and must be afforded in an AFC home. We will first discuss the qualifications of AFC home licensees, administrators, and direct care staff members regarding resident rights. Before a temporary AFC home license is issued, a prospective licensee or licensee designee, as well as their administrator, shall be competent in the area of resident rights. An AFC licensee, licensee designee, or administrator must also make training available to direct care staff members on the area of resident rights. According to Administrative Licensing Rule ending in 701, Subrule 1, a licensee shall have a written policy and procedure on the area of resident rights. According to Adult Foster Care Administrative Licensing Rules, a licensee shall provide to a resident or resident's designated representative a copy of the resident's rights at time of admission. Any restrictions and/or limits to a resident's rights must be agreed upon by the resident or the resident's legal guardian or indicated in a court order and then stated in writing in the resident's assessment plan and resident care agreement. A designated representative or a responsible agency does not have the authority to restrict a resident's rights unless also agreed to by the resident or the resident's legally appointed guardian. Let's discuss each resident's right as indicated in Administrative Licensing Rule ending in 681, Subrule 3, in greater detail. Residents have the right to be free from discrimination based on race, religion, color, national origin, sex, gender identity, age, physical or mental impairment, marital status, or source of payment in the provision of services and care. Source of payment refers to supplemental security income, private pay, social security, etc. The intent of referencing source of payment is to assure that residents are treated equally, including the basic services provided, regardless of source of payment. This does not preclude the provision of additional services for additional compensation. Residents have the right to exercise individual constitutional rights, including right to vote, right to practice religion of choice, freedom of movement, and freedom of association. Residents have the right to attend or refuse participation in religious practices. They have the right to write, send, and receive uncensored and unopened mail at their own expense. Residents have the right to reasonable access to a telephone for private communications. However, a licensee may charge a resident for the cost of long-distance telephone calls. The intent of this rule is to assure that a home has a means of communication for residents that is accessible and affords privacy. This could be a private telephone, cellular telephone, or a payphone. Local calls are at the expense of the licensee, regardless of type of telephone. Residents must be afforded the means to present grievances to the facility licensee and administrator. They have the right to voice grievances and present recommendations pertaining to the policies, services, and facility rules without fear of retaliation. Residents have the right to associate and have private communications and consultations with their healthcare provider, attorney, or any person of choice. Residents have the right to participate in social and community group activities of their choice. They also have the right to use advocacy agency services and attend community services of choice. Residents are to have reasonable access to and use of their personal clothing and belongings. Reasonable access means a resident's access to a supply of personal clothing that is sufficient for a variety of occasions and seasons. The written assessment plan must address any restrictions to access of personal clothing or belongings and be agreed upon by the resident or his or her guardian. Residents should not be prohibited from access to their personal possessions because of the behavior of others. Residents must be able to receive visitors at a reasonable time. Exceptions or visitor restrictions must be covered in the residence assessment plan. Special consideration must be given to visitors coming from out of town or whose hours of employment warrant deviation from usual visiting hours. Privacy must be provided for visitation. The licensee should establish house guidelines that describes unacceptable visitor behavior that may result in visitation restrictions. Residents have the right to employ the services of a healthcare professional of choice for obtaining medical, psychiatric, or dental services. They also have the right to refuse treatment and services, including taking of medication, and to be made aware of the consequences of refusal. The licensee may inform the resident that refusing medication, treatment, or services could result in a negative outcome to their physical or mental health, and may result in discharge if the licensee is no longer able to meet their needs and/or assure their safety and protection. Residents have the right to request and receive assistance from the responsible agency in relocating to another living situation. Residents are to be treated with consideration and respect, with due recognition of personal dignity, individuality, and need for privacy. Residents have the right to access their bedroom at their own discretion. Residents must be afforded the right to confidentiality of records as stated in Section 12, Subrule 3 of the Adult Foster Care Act. A licensee shall have written policies and procedures that include confidentiality requirements specified by law. A licensee shall provide contact information to file a complaint with the Department, Adult Protective Services, and the State Ombudsman Office. The licensee shall allow the resident to meet privately with the above agencies. Thank you for watching our video presentation on resident rights, provider responsibilities in adult foster care homes. We hope you found this information helpful. See you soon.